What was going through the minds of Hamas today? They probably want to throw a wrench into the Saudi-Israeli talks, as this would harm them. Iran. First and foremost, the U.S. is in talks of a defense agreement with Saudi Arabia that would commit in military support to Saudi Arabia if they were attacked. However, this agreement is contingent on Saudi Arabia normalizing relations with Israel. I would assume that Hamas probably thinks that this would give Israel more cover to expand settlements and other such actions. Iran is worried that if a war were to ever break out with Saudi Arabia, then the U.S. has now explicitly committed to back the Saudis. This has been a monumental lapse from Israeli intelligence agencies. The fact they were caught so unaware is just mind-boggling to me. But no doubt they will be absolutely merciless in their response, and the peace deal with Saudi Arabia will be put on the back burner. To get in between the Saudi and Israeli talks and to bait a massive retaliation response from the Israelis. They probably didn't think the attack would be so successful, mainly wishing for a few hostages. Then when they had no resistance, they just kept going, leading their diversion units spreading out with the unrestrained death squad mentality. It went from a PR stunt to capture a few soldiers as hostage and torpedo the Saudi-Israeli talks, to well a ISIS-like murder raid. Allah Akbar and Mashallah on an endless loop. Jokes aside, it is pretty clear that they're trying to disrupt the discussions with Saudi Arabia from other angles. Perhaps they might want Israel to invade Palestinian territories and then use that to recruit more jihadis or reinvigorate support from Muslim countries. Not all forces are thinking rationally. Culture is playing large part at the people's goals. They don't have any way to beat down Israel ever. They have no reason to think rationally. They just wanted to harm Israel and become shaheeds. Hamas on its own didn't have a catalyst. Palestinians got the Gaza Strip like last decade. So what was the catalyst? Has anyone questioned why Putin was courting Raisi the past 2 years? This declaration of war by Israel is Putin's wet dream. It will cripple America's support of Ukraine just when Americans are growing tired of war in general. Give Putin a bone, at least for being perfectly diabolical. A controversial but accurate answer is vengeance. It looks like this is a Pearl Harbor moment, not just from the POV of Israel but from the POV of Hamas as well. At the time Japan attacked Pearl, the Japanese nation only had 18 months of oil reserves, and so they either had to attack at that time or risk immobilizing their war machine. As Israel continues to create new settlements, destroy agricultural land, divert water from the Palestinian to the Israeli side of the line, they might be thinking that they have to act now or risk going away silently. They want to disrupt normalization talks with Saudi Arabia and goad Israel into a disastrous land invasion of Gaza. That Israel was in the lowest point possible due to the political situation. That they cannot let the Saudi talks continue, and that the propaganda machine did its job well enough that the Western public will side them and not Israel. Hamas attacking Israel is like throwing rocks at a sleeping lion and then celebrating that you got away with it for 30 seconds before it eats you. This is just plain cancerous religious zealotry. These people Hamas want violence and they will get it. In the end, one side will probably have to erase the other for this conflict to end. That's how it's happened historically. I just found the absolutely stunning phrase very out of place. Probably 5.56. But, seriously, they managed to take a world increasingly favoring Palestine over Israel and completely flip sympathies. They've undone their chances. If you can't understand it with just a little knowledge of the history of the area, you'll never understand it. The current leadership structure of Hamas is made up of people who either spent decades in Israeli jails or lost their families in the repeated Israeli attacks on Gaza. Add this to everything else we know about the situation, and it will be easy to deduce what was on the minds of Hamas to inflict pain on Israel. They've been being slaughtered for decades. The amount of Israelis that died today is a drop in the bucket compared to the amount of Palestinian women and children killed. Two wrongs don't make a right, but that's the truth. In World War II, Japan, as one of the top industrialized country, invaded China and occupied lots of China's land. China, a slow farming country, still picked up whatever they can to defend their territory. Hamas action seems logical, driving colonists out of their country territory. Decades occupation does not make it legitimacy. These guys were all programmed in advance. OMG, it worked. Geopolitics novice here, so please pardon me for any mistakes or less informed views. How much of this is also a China versus US chessboard in the Middle East? Not just Iran and the normalization of Israel-Saudi relationship. The Israeli PM also recently spoke about the India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor, probably threatening China obor. How does this play out in that context? Wars are rarely rational acts. If you add religious fanaticism, you'll have a nice hellscape. Hamas is a joke at this point. Their leadership has stagnated to the point where some young dumb hotshot probably said let's do this and the elderly folks said go for it. We can't say no, you have the guns and weapons. Who paraglides in like that? Young guns with lots of gumption and obviously played too much Call of Duty or PUBG, no doubt. Palestine needs to get some real good leadership, man. Idiots running things for so long only works for so long before shit gets all infighting and what not. Look at the Taliban. Moderates versus hardliners. From the images of celebration combatants and supporters elsewhere, they're just doing what they enjoy. Since some of the Arab countries have expressed support for China, can Israel use their same policies with the Palestinians? If their re-education is effective, then a one-state solution would be possible. While the West has expressed opposition to the methods that China has used, it seems to have worked. But Israeli may be reluctant to exert that level of control over the Palestinian population for such an extended time. Something akin to blood for the blood god, I imagine. They wanted to show the world that Israel isn't undefeatable, like it was thought in the past also. They wanted to really support in the Arabic world, especially in the Shiitish, so that the Iran supports them even more. Another reason could be to show the world, especially the Iran, that the US are weakened right now because of the other conflicts in the world, which are leading to a so thin US intelligence presence in the world which wasn't seen since the founding of the CIA properly. Must kill innocent people. Hurish. Religious delusion. Nothing more. Surprised this post didn't get taken down, considering what a leading question it is. What was going through the minds of Israeli colonizers the past decade? Shrapnel and bullets, increasingly. Besides high-speed metal and bone fragments? They want to make a giant spit roast with all the Jews. Why did we choose a name that sounds like ham's ass? A 5.53 round given the IDF's response. The back of their skulls. Hopefully a 7.62x51. It is a jihad of victory or martyrdom. And our weapons are legitimate in all arenas. This is what drives the Palestinian resistance. Factions struggle for liberation. Hopefully a large caliber rifle bullet.